Guys, good afternoon. Welcome to Hope and the Truth. I'm your host, Lance Parvin. We have an action-packed show today. 2 guests, not just one. Our first guest with a powerful testimony, Shirley Carter-Boyd, is going to be joining us and sharing what Jesus has done and is doing in her life. Diagnosed with cancer. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but it's a powerful testimony. After that, we have Vera Moore, the founder of Divinity House, joining us, which is an amazing nonprofit organization helping those in need. She's an amazing woman. What she's doing for the Las Vegas community is just astounding. So I invite you guys to stay tuned. We're going to be right back with our first guest, Shirley Carter-Boyd. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, good afternoon. Welcome back to Hope and the Truth as promised. My first guest, an amazing sister in Christ, Shirley Carter-Boyd. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, a little bit of how we met. Another sister called me and goes, I have a sister. She's got to share her testimony of what the Lord's done. And I go, wow, I need to hear it, because the main premise of why we started this show was showing how Jesus saves. And I find that by people sharing their testimonies, it shows proof of concept of Jesus in a person's life. And that always touches a person's heart when they hear it, because we find oftentimes we've gone through stuff and then someone else can relate. 100%. So Shirley, I'm not even going to interrupt you. I just want you to share with the world what the Lord's done for you, at least with the testimony that you've shared with me.
What God has done for me, I began to lose weight, and I didn't know what was making me lose all this weight. And I kept losing weight, and I was eating, but something wasn't right. So I decided to go to the doctor. My husband told me to go to the doctor and find out what's making me lose weight. I lost 37 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
And I wasn't trying to lose weight. You know, I do my normal walking stuff, but I didn't expect to lose 37 pounds in 3 months. So that's when I went to the doctor. And I went to my doctor, and Dr. Robinson told me, she said, Shirley, we're going to have to do some blood work on you to see what's causing you to lose weight. Something is not right for you to be losing that kind of weight. And I wasn't taking no kind of diet medicine or no kind of stuff to make me lose weight or anything. I was eating my normal way that I would normally eat. And I went and we did the blood work, and then the doctor called me back in, and she told me, she said, Shirley, we found something. And I said, what did you find? She said, do you have cancer? I said, no, I don't have any cancer. I said, I'm fine, that I know of to my knowledge. And she said, but the blood work came back showing that your cancer count is always, everybody has a count, is always at 2. That's showing cancer somewhere. But my count had went up to 3.5. Oh. And then when she told me that, that kind of made me went in a little, I was a little shocked.
Yeah.
And I asked her, what does that mean? She said, you have cancer somewhere trying to come into your body. But she said, I'm not a cancer doctor, so I don't know where the cancer is coming at or where it's trying to come in at. She said, so I'm going to have to refer you out to a cancer specialist. So I said, okay. So I told her I'm going to go home and pray about it. And I did, and I went home and told my husband, and he was upset and worried about me, and my family was worried about me, and I called my sisters and them, and I told them what the doctor said, and they said, we have to pray. And I said, I'm just going to pray. And they said, you act like you're not even worried. I said, I'm going to trust God, and I'm going to stand on His word. So then they scheduled me to go to the cancer center, comprehensive cancer center. And I told the lady they was going to send me way across town. I said, no, I said, could you find one that's closer to my house so I won't be as, I was nervous. Somebody tell you, I think I'm a good, healthy person. Yeah. Now they tell me cancer is coming in my body. So they sent me to comprehensive cancer, and I went and saw the cancer doctor. So she looked at the blood work that the doctor said. She said, we're going to have to do a thorough blood work test than what my regular doctor did. So she said, we're going to do a cancer scan on you, where it's a machine we put you in, and it scans your body. And it lets us know whether cancer, or at least try to attempt to let us know where the cancer is trying to come in at. And I said, really? I said, well, she said, are you scared? I said, yes, I'm scared, but I'm not scared because I'm trusting God. So we talked about it, and she set me up, and I went and did that test. And then that test came back showing cancer. Then they sent me to do some more blood work and more kind of tests, and this test, that test. I went through so many testing, but the cancer kept trying to come in, and I was constantly still losing weight. And my husband said, looked like I was sick, and I didn't look like I was sick to me. And I just told her when I left her, I said, God told me to go into a hiding place. And I went and I prayed about it. My husband was worried, my sisters, my family, my brothers, all my friends, Cynthia, they was all worried about me. They kept saying, you acting like ain't nothing wrong. I said, I'm going to trust God because God told me everything was going to be all right. So that night, and they were sending me back to do another test in a couple of weeks, she said, to do that test, to try to still find where it was coming in at. But I was constantly losing weight, and I had no energy. And so that night, I was laying in my bed, and I had prayed, and I told my husband, I said, I'm going to trust God. God keep telling me I'm going to be okay. And my husband said, there you go, you just talking.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not just talking. So my husband, we was in the bed, and God told me to get up. It was one night. I got up, and I felt so sick. And I didn't want to disturb my husband because I know he had to go to work the next day. And I said, I don't want to bother him. He's already worried and scared. I'm not scared. I told him, Charlie, you can't be afraid because God told me not to be afraid. Everything was going to be all right. And I was telling all my sisters the same thing. They was getting on my nerves, worried about me being sick. But I knew I was already in God's hands. And God had already came and talked to me about it. And that night, I got up. I went to the bathroom. And I was praying and thinking. And God said, don't disturb your husband. So I went into the bathroom, and I got so sick, the bathroom in my room. And I began to start throwing up. And then I threw up. And I said, oh God, what's going on? My body started like a change, like something just came over me. And then God told me, get up out of the bathroom, go downstairs. I'm just listening to God talk to me. I began to go downstairs, and I was so weak. And God said, I started to wake up my husband. God said, no, I want you to go downstairs because I have something for you. I went downstairs to the bathroom downstairs. I was so weak, I'm holding on to the rails going downstairs. I said, God, what if I fall? I'm talking to God. God said, I got you. I can hear and see him just as plain as day. He said, everything's going to be all right. I go downstairs in my bathroom down there. And then I sit down on the toilet. And I begin to pray. And the next thing I know, when I begin to pray, and I start speaking in tongues, I start talking to God. And the next thing I know, I begin to see water just pouring off of me. And I looked, and I see all this water over the floor. And then I didn't, like something just took my strength. And then I started hollering for my husband to come help me because I was afraid. I didn't know what was going on. And I'm just sitting there, then all of a sudden I begin to throw up some more, and I see all this black stuff. And then God came to me. He said, everything's all right. And then I began to think about my husband who died from cancer. And the cancer doctor, they showed me what cancer looked like. And I said, God, is this cancer coming out of me? And then I began to start like I was projectile vomiting. The vomit was just coming out of me, and my bowels just ran out of me, and water. I'm wiping myself, and I'm looking, and then I see all this water over the floor. And I got up. God said, get up. I got up and I thought I was going to fall down. I said, God, I'm too weak to get up. So I sit back down on the toilet and I start howling and howling for my husband to come. He said, lay yourself on the bed. You don't need to be down there. I said, Kenneth, please come help me. I said, something is not right with me. Something is going wrong with my body. I said, please come down. And I start calling him Kenneth. Kenneth is my husband who died from cancer. And Charlie said, I'm not Kenneth. So he coming down. He said, Shirley, you sure? And then when he looked at me, he said, oh, baby, something's wrong with you. Sweat, water, everything was all over the floor. And he said, what's going on down here? I said, Charlie, God is healing me. I'm telling you, he's healing me. And my husband came and I said, get a towel. It was so much water, he went and ran upstairs to get a little towel. He had to get sheets. He brought some sheets down. And God said, leave it. He said, Shirley, then I almost fell. And so my husband grabbed me. I said, Charlie, God just took the cancer. I said, can't you see it? Can't you see it? I said, this cancer. Charlie said, you're tripping. Quit tripping, Shirley. He said, what's wrong with you? And my husband got scared and he started crying because it scared him and he's seeing all this stuff. He didn't know what was going on. I was so weak in the water, just pouring off me. He said, babe, you're not sweating. He said, Shirley, something wrong with you. And then I began to start talking to God in my language. Charlie said, you all right? You all right? I said, and then he said, Shirley, what's wrong? I said, God's telling me he's healing me. Charlie, I said, don't say that. I have to let it go. I said, God, tell me. I kept speaking and I kept talking to God, and the water just kept pouring. And then I started throwing up again like I was projectile vomiting. It was just spitting out of me, just coming out of me. And I was standing there and my body, Charlie said my body was so cold and so wet. My husband said it scared him. He didn't know what was wrong with me. And I said, God said, I'm all right. And then I threw up the last time, and Charlie said, he grabbed hold of me. He said, Shirley, I think we need to take you to the hospital. He said, I need to call the paramedics right away. I said, no, I don't need no paramedics. I said, God told me for you to help me now. You got to help me back upstairs. And then my husband began to pick me up. He tried to help carry me up the stairs. He said, oh, Shirley, something ain't right. My body was so weak. And all this stuff, it looks like lava. Stuff coming out of me. I can just see it plain as day. And I said, God's telling me that I'm going to be okay. He said a cancer is coming out. And my husband was just standing there crying. He watching me doing all this stuff. And I'm trying to tell him, I said, just help me. I said, God said, help me back to the room. Get this out of this. And then my husband, he just threw a towel and the sheets all over the stuff in the bathroom floor downstairs. I said, Charlie, I said, God says I'm all right. And then I start like I was projectile vomiting then. And the next thing I know, my husband grabbed a hold of me and he started helping me and he started lifting me. And then he's trying to help me move and I couldn't move. I said, God, son, he said, Shirley, God is trying to tell me something. He said, I don't know what's going on with you. He said, do I need to call your sisters then to come? He said, Shirley, something is not right with you. I said, Charlie, I'm all right. I said, God is healing me. I said, God has laid his hands on me and he's touching me. I said, all this stuff. I said, look at it. I said, it's cancer. It's cancer. My husband didn't believe me. He just looking, he started crying and he just started throwing the towels. When he ran, he got more towels. He ran upstairs and left me standing there. And I was so weak and I started holding on to the sink in my house. And I said, God, I'm going to be all right. I said, I don't want to leave here. I don't want to leave my husband. I don't want to leave my son. I said, God, what's wrong with me? I said, is you taking the cancer out of me? Is you just trying to help me what's going wrong with me? And God just kept talking and I asked my husband, I said, don't you hear him? I said, he's telling me I'm all right. I said, Charlie, don't worry. God says I'm all right. Just help me back upstairs to the room. So my husband lifted me up like this. He put his arms under my arm and he was walking behind me. He said, because I don't want us both to fall on the stairs in the house. I said, God said, if you just get me back up and just let me lay back down, I'll be all right. And my husband helped me. He said, oh, Shirley, you got the bed all wet, water I'm just running water, just like it's just running off of me. And I told Charlie, I said, don't you see all this water? I said, God is flushing me and he's cleansing me. He's cleansing the cancer out of me. And my husband said, he said, Shirley, you start crying, and I began to cry. And he said, you sure God is going to heal you? I said, God already healed me. He healed me down there in the bathroom. You just didn't see it. But I saw what God told me to do when he told me to go downstairs in the bathroom and everything was going to be all right. He said, don't worry, husband, because I got you. But my husband came because I was scared of what had happened when I saw that. And then I began to start thinking about my husband who died, who showed me, the doctor at that cancer center showed me all the cancer that was in my husband's body that had to come out. And God told me I was going to be all right if I make it back upstairs to my room. And my husband helped me up the stairs. And we laid there, and I told my husband, I said, God said, pray right now. And he began to hold on my hand. And he told me, I'm so scared. He said, you always say God's going to heal everything. I'll work everything out, even when things ain't going right. He said, you always say, trust God. So I began to trust God. And God worked that cancer out of me. And then when I looked and I saw all the cancer laying there, and I told my husband, I said, look in the toilet. It's all in the toilet. He said, Shirley, what is this black stuff just coming out of you? I said, God is healing me. And he's telling me he's healing me. He's healing me from the cancer. And all that cancer came out of me. And I went in there. And then my husband said, do you need me to call the paramedic? And then the paramedic, my husband called the paramedic. The paramedic came. And I said, I don't need to go to no hospital because I'm all right. And the paramedics looked at me and they started putting all these things, hooking all up to my heart, hooking it all, everything up to me, trying to figure out what's going wrong with me. And then the two paramedics that came up, and my husband brought him upstairs. He said, she's upstairs here laying down, but I don't know what's wrong with her. But she threw out a lot of stuff, and the paramedic came and he started hooking these things to my heart and everything, and trying to take me. But the first thing he said, all your vitals are good. I said, but what's wrong with me? They couldn't find nothing. What was wrong with me? So my husband told him to go ahead on and leave me, and he'll take me to the cancer center the next day to see the cancer lady. So my husband, I said, no, you don't need to go with me. So he helped dress me up, and I laid there in the bed, and I just laid there till the next morning, and my husband was still scared. And then the next thing I know, my equal level, my body felt like the mirror was just waving. I can see the mirror from my dresser over there. And I said, don't you see him? I said, Charlie, God is already in the room with us. Can't you see him? And my husband couldn't see nothing, but I saw. I said, he's already here, and he's already telling me that I'm already healed. I said, you just don't believe it, but I believe it. I said, so we're going to go lay back down, and we're going to get up in the morning, and we're going to go do some testing. And then I got up that morning, and I told my husband, I said, no, God told me to tell you, go ahead on to work, and I'm going to go over and make the appointment with the cancer doctors. So I went to the cancer center the next day. I got up, and my husband, I said, no. I said, God told me, Charlie, that I'm all right. You don't have to be with me. So when I went to the cancer center that morning, and I already had I already got an appointment, and Charlie said, no, I'm going to take off work, because what happened last night, he was still trying to clean up all the mess that God had threw all that cancer out of me. And he said, Shirley, I don't know what's going wrong, but something ain't right with you. And you let that cancer doctor know that I cleaned up all this stuff. And when I got to the cancer center the next morning, I said, no, I don't need you to go. I don't need you to call my sister. I said, because God already told me. I said, you don't see it, but I see it, that I know it's no more cancer in me. So I went to the cancer center, and then the cancer lady, they did some blood work on on me that day. So she told me to come back when your blood work. And I told her what had happened. And she told me, she said, you should have brought a sample. I said, my husband wouldn't pick it up. And I was too weak to bend down to get something, and I wasn't thinking. I told her I was so busy praying for God to heal me, I didn't think about taking no sample. So when I went back to the cancer center for the third time, and when I went in there and I was sitting there waiting to get the result from what had just happened to me, there was some people in there. A lady husband was there for stomach cancer. Another lady husband had just found out he was cancer, and I was sitting up in there, and God told me to start singing. And then I started singing, and I started talking to the lady, and everybody looking at me in the cancer center like I was crazy. So they said, what's wrong with you? And the cancer doctor said, come back here in my office. And I laid my hands on people as I was going through to go back there to see her. And when I came back from out there and she sit there and talked to me, she said, Miss Carter, I don't know what's wrong, but it was cancer there. But it's no more cancer nowhere.
Jesus.
And the blood work had, everything had went back to normal. And when I came out there laughing and jumping and singing, and the people in the cancer center, they just said, well, please, the lady was telling me to touch her husband, the lady telling me to touch her husband, the lady telling me to touch her little daughter that she had brought to the cancer center. And I told her, I said, God told me to lay hands on everybody as I walked through coming out there. And I jumped up and said, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, for your blood, for your precious blood. And the people in the cancer center looking at me like I'm crazy. I went out of there shouting out of the door, and the doctor said, you don't have to come back, but I want you to come back in a couple months because we got to check that blood again. She said, ma'am, it was cancer, but the cancer is gone like you said. She said, whoever your God is, he removed the cancer, so we don't have to do no surgery to try to find out, because they thought it was in my breast, they thought it was in my colon. They sent me back to the thyroid doctor, they sent me back to the nose doctor. They couldn't find nothing. Said everything keeps showing normal to me. And they said, Miss Carter, you come back and see me in 6 months. That's what the thyroid doctor told me. And the nose and throat doctor told me. He said, I don't see nothing there, but the goiter is still there, and we don't see no cancer, but you all swollen up and everything was looking so bad. If you'd have saw me, I looked like a picture of death when I left up out of there. But today, God is my healer. And I told my husband, and my husband began to start shouting. He said, baby, I don't know how to speak in tongues. I said, well, just say thank you, Jesus. Just keep saying thank you, Jesus, and God will give you that vision. I said, God doesn't give everybody to speak in tongues. I said, for those who don't know about God, you just have to understand when he's working things out for you, he's working it out for your good. And I told that cancer doctor, she said, you're the first patient I had in the last 6 months come out here talking all this noise and waking up everybody in the cancer center looking at me. They running from out the doors. I'm in there praising God, speaking in another language they didn't know. They thought they had to call a paramedic for me. I said, no, I'm all right. I'm just praising God for what he's done for me in advance. I said, he'll do the same thing for you guys. You got to trust him, because if it's your time and it ain't ready for God to call you home, he's not going to bring you home till he say he's ready for you. And I told the people in the cancer center, God wasn't ready for me to be here with you guys. I said, but I'm going to keep praying for you guys that's who's here and who has cancer and who's here with their spouse and their mates and whatever. I said, God told me to tell you guys, just keep trusting him and believing his word, and he's going to work miracles for you. I said, God might not work the miracle that he did for you, but what he's going to do for me. But he can do anything. He'll keep you here. When he said, I told the lady, I said, God told me my husband had 3 months to live, but God kept him here 2.5 years so that he can keep ministering to people and pray with people at the cancer center, have me praying for people at the cancer center. They thought nothing was wrong with me and my husband. When we would come to the cancer center, I would go in there, start singing church songs and everything, and the goodness of God, and just tell you how good God and mercy is, and how God touched the doctor that was atheist that I told you about. And when the doctor called me after my husband died, we had all these bills. I went to the doctor's office, and the doctor told me, he said, Miss Carter, he said, any bills come to your house. I told my nurse, to send everything to me. I'm going to take care of it. I went over to Mount View Hospital. They had sent me bills. So my sister said, Shirley, you go ahead on and start giving them $100 a month. Because she said, you know, they can take your house. They can take everything from you to get their money. So I went over there to Mount View Hospital. I told my sister Ida, I said, well, I'm going to pray about it. Then I'm going to go over here and see what God's going to do for me. So I went over there to the Mount View Hospital here in Las Vegas. And I told the lady, I went in the department. I said, ma'am, I came to pay on my bill. And I said, what is my bill? She said, your bill was $100 and some thousand. But what? She said, but wait a minute. She said, something came in on your bill. She said, wait a minute. And the lady went in there and she got my bill. I'm sitting there waiting to pay the $100. And I said, I can pay $100 a month. She said, ma'am, as long as you pay $100 a month, you'll be all right. And when the lady came back, the other lady came back in there. She said, no, ma'am. She said, your bill. I said, what do I owe? She said, you don't owe nothing but $100. I started shouting up in Mount View Hospital. They had the people coming down thinking something wrong with me. They sending the doctor to come, and I'm in there just shouting up in there. I don't shout it all the way out into the lobby from in the little hospital. Right there, the little room, as soon as you enter in, is their office. And I shouted all the way up. I'm shouting all out there in Mount View Hospital. Here they come with the paramedics. They thinking something wrong with me. I say, ain't nothing wrong with me. I said, I just got another blessing for God. Anytime God bless you, you had a bill of $100-some thousand, and they don't send all these papers. I'm going over there. And the lady said, no, something must be ain't right. She said, your bill ain't nothing but $100. I went out of there shouting my way all the way out Mount View Hospital, and I said, thank you, Jesus. They looking at me. Here come the paramedic come running. They thinking they something wrong with me because I was speaking in my language, talking to God, we have and I was thanking him. And I just want to say thank you for letting me tell somebody. And I hope this testimony help somebody. Amen. And you just got to trust God and stand on his word and believe in him. And always keep the faith. Even though man might tell you something, but the man up above has the last say so. And that's my testimony.
Amen. Sister, you are a blessing. I'm so grateful for you. I'm thankful what the Lord has done in your life, because it's an ongoing thing.
Yes, he is. He's a working miracle. You just have to trust him and believe in him and stand on his words. And I tell people, and pay their tithes and serve God, because you don't know what God got in store for you, because man can lie to you all the time, but God always stands on his word, because he's a true living God.
We serve a living God, sister.
Yes,
guys, thank you so much for stopping by today, Shirley, and we will be right back on Hope and the Truth. God bless, guys.
Thank you. My testimony.
Hello everyone, we are inviting you to tune in to www.faithback.live. It is our desire that through Faithback, that the message of salvation through Jesus may bring life, comfort, and hope to you, our dear listeners. We are streaming 24/7, and our mission is to bring the gospel of Jesus to the nations. Join us as we fight back fear with faith in Jesus Christ. Once again, that's www.faithback.live. God bless you and keep you.
Guys, welcome back to Hope and the Truth, as promised, with me from True Beginnings and Divinity House. See, I'm naming it both. Miss Vera Moore, how are you, sister?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you for stopping by. So I wanted you to tell the audience a little about True Beginnings.
Absolutely. So I'll put it to you like this. I was in jail 2005.
Okay.
And my second oldest daughter, who I had primed to go to college, was on her way to HBCU. Right? She's filling out her FAFSA and the whole 9 yards. And I'm in jail. And so I'm talking to her on the phone, and she says, Mom, now that I'm here, what do I do? And I'm like, I literally have no clue. I didn't go to college. You see where I'm at. And God literally gave me this entire vision after getting off the phone with her for the ability to work with individuals that hadn't found their way and to find their divine purpose. Not only that, though, it was so big. like all my court paperbacks were like full to building what we call a mock society for people that were like the rejects. And I remember just like writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. And I had no idea what would come of this. I just knew that I was building this. I knew who the audience would be. I knew what we would be teaching them. I know what we would be providing them. I knew what kind of space it would be in. That was back in 2005. I stayed in my addiction because I'm formerly incarcerated, recovering addict, the whole 9 yards. Stayed in my addiction from 2005 to 2008. Got into rehab. 2009, I left. 2012, I moved to Virginia. In Virginia, these kids were in the back of my backyard, and they were selling drugs. And I had just got clean and sober. Yeah. And I wanted my granddaughter to be able to play in the backyard. But I knew, you know, selling drugs comes gunfire and the whole, you know, there's so many iffy things about it, right? So many variables. And I just walked around the corner to the back of my backyard and I was like, hey, you guys, I need you to stop selling drugs here. Like, what can I do to get you to move away from this space? Yeah. And they was like, oh, there's no job for felons, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, sure it is. I have a job. I've been convicted of felonies, several, by the way, violent felonies on top of that. And they was like, whatever, TT, you know, that's how they refer to you, right? Yeah. Whatever, TT. Yeah. And I told him, I said, okay, if I can get you a job, will you promise to leave this spot, right? Because I want my granddaughter to be able to play outside. And she's just barely 3. And so 2 other people took it on. 2. These 2 stories are interlinked because in 2005, I literally had no idea what I was embarking upon. But I knew that whatever it was going to be a true beginning for somebody. Not something someone else had designed, not something that you had based on societal norms, but it was going to be the truth of whatever your divine purpose was. And it was going to dig really, really deep. And I knew, hence in our logo, it's this kind of circle that pans out into a road. I knew that we were going to be changing generations to come. Because the circle is, most times we follow things that our parents have done, grandparents have done. But our logo pans out into this road for you to actually carve out a piece of life that looks distinguished to who you are, your character, your personality, your values, your morals, your beliefs. And so these kids, they took it on, right? They was like, okay, fine, all right, TT, we got you. We'll, you know, try to find us a job, thinking they had defeated me. Yeah. They didn't know who I was. Yeah. You know, so what I had done was taken all the energy and the ability to hustle back in my using and flipped it into today's world, the legitimacy world. And I got busy. One Sunday, while we were watching football, eating Sunday dinner as a family, we got this pound on the door. Pow, 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 pow. And one of the guys, his name was Big Boy. My husband went to open the door, and there was Big Boy. And he's like 6'4", 370 pounds. He ain't no little guy. Yeah. My husband's 6 feet barely, you know. I mean, he tries to be 6'1", but, you know, the older we get.
Yeah, I try to be 5'7", so it's all right. I hear you.
So my husband opens the door, and he's like looking up at this big, huge black eye. And this guy is like, tears are streaming down his face. And he's like, I just need to speak to Mrs. Moore. I need to speak to Mrs. Moore. My husband looks back at me, and he's like, you got company. And I go up, and Raymond says to me, that's his real name. He says, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I got the job at the t-shirt screening company. And right above the t-shirt screening company, they had some rooms for rent. And so the owner of the t-shirt screening company gave me a room so that I could live there, save my money, work at his shop, which has allowed me to go visit my son every weekend, who lived in D.C. And this grown man is weeping. Makes me emotional right now just thinking, just the visualization of this grown man being so grateful to be able to visit his child again. and not have to sell drugs in order to do it. And I knew at that moment that I had really struggled in my life. Because until that moment, had no idea what my purpose was.
Yeah.
I just knew that I didn't want to use anymore. I wanted my granddaughter to see me in a different light than what her mom had saw me. I didn't want to be the person that my mother said that I was, you know. I didn't want to be or fit into the category of all the stigmas in society, but I didn't know how to reach that.
Yeah.
And so when he did that, then immediately in my head, that whole business plan kind of just like, it was like pages, like when you flip the Bible pages and it just goes, you know, which was how I got through many of my days in jail. I would wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I would eat their breakfast, and then I would take the Bible and I would just go, and wherever it landed, I knew that that was the word for me.
Yeah.
And it really did. It guided me through so many different things. And so here, this business plan comes flooding back to my memory. And my husband said after Big Boy left, he was like, okay, you need an office. Like, it's been fun up until now, you know, you talking about all of this stuff. But people are knocking on our door now. And I did. I wrote this book called The Ex-Offender Toolkit. And I said that's the best way that I'd be able to reach a lot of people. And then I went to this mental health agency with this book, and Leon Sankofa, he was like, oh my God, you have a product, you're a great personality, good business plan, and he gave me an office in kind for a year. And I built that business and was able to go in and out of prisons and jails and county institutions. And that door didn't stay locked behind me. I got to leave whenever I wanted to. And I moved from Virginia back out here following my daughter. And I went to a conference for reentry. And I asked the people that were running the conference, how can I help? Because I had been diagnosed with cancer, and I came out here to make the best of that and all of those things. And they said, help the women. So in Virginia, I helped a lot of people. You know, I specialized in sex offenders. That was my calling, because I understood that everyone didn't deserve that, necessarily that title. To me, it was kind of like being black. You know, just you have this title, this SO hanging over your head, regardless of what you've done, regardless of who you are, you still fit in this particular category. And so I made it my mission to really service them. But when they said do the women, I said, okay, I'll focus on women. And I said, you know, I want the women to find their divine purpose. Because I found mine. I realized that in True Beginnings, what I had done was I learned my niche. I learned what God had put me on this earth for. I learned all the reasons I had gone through all of this. The trauma, the abuse, the drugs, the domestic violence, the homelessness, like all of that, the incarceration. I was like, wow. Because starting out, I was a good student, headed to college. Like, who does that and then turns to crack? Like, it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. And I opened up Divinity House March 2020, and it has been on and popping ever since then.
Now tell me about Divinity House.
Divinity House. It is a gender-responsive, trauma-informed dwelling, a safe space for women that are formerly incarcerated or justice involved to come and clear their head. So it's not like a transitional living facility, right? Where there's all these stringent rules and there's all these guidelines that you have to follow, and there's this protocol and this cookie cutter approach to getting clean. No. Divinity House is about nurturing. It's about sisterhood. It's a safe space. And we treat trauma first. That's really what it is. And it's very culture specific. And what I mean by that is women thrive in areas of culture, right? And we think of culture as being individualistic. We think of it as being black, white, and brown, green, or orange. But culture really is in the support of each other and the way that we operate with each other. Funny story. We have a young lady at our house right now. She is pregnant with twins, and she's due, right? She's actually supposed to have the babies in February, but she's very, very tiny. Her body is not having an easy time of carrying these babies. And she's like calling, oh my God, I gotta go to the hospital. They sewed her cervix shut. Oh my God, I gotta go to the hospital. I'm having contractions, just all these things. The Sisterhood of Divinity House, this is it in a nutshell. The Sisterhood of Divinity House immediately pulled together a baby shower because they realized that she didn't have the means and the capacity to take care of this on her own. Another story, one of the other ladies had a seizure the other day. Wet herself, the whole 9 yards, went to the hospital. I called Divinity House, I'm out of town. Everybody pulls together, they get her clothes, they get to the hospital, they make sure she has her things together, they check with the doctor. Everybody's like chiming in, like family.
Yes.
And that's what transitional living should be. When you want to transform someone's life, you have to give them something that they're not used to. And so that's what we've done at Divinity House. And in that, they get to find out what they're good at.
That's beautiful. And it's a place of fellowship, too, because you start seeing there's love that's there. It's not just a space, which a lot of transitional houses are like, oh, until you get to the next thing, it's this. But what am I actually gleaning from this?
Facts.
And it's, you know, it's funny, actually, how we met. And because I'm going to tell this story. So the Lord gives me a dream.
Yes.
And it shows me St. Louis. And I'm like, I'm not going to St. Louis. And I wake up like, I'm not going to St. Louis, Lord. And I'm like, I'm going to wait. Because I get stuff wrong. He's never wrong, I'm wrong. And I'm like, I'm going to wait till you clarify why I'd be going to St. Louis. And funny enough, in the dream, I see you now. I don't know who you are.
Right.
I'm like, who's this woman? And why am I in St. Louis? And so the next day, maybe a few days later, I get an email, which was an email I've never gotten before, which is from True Beginnings. I'm like, who's this? And I'm reading through it, and I get to the address, and I'm like, East St. Louis Ave. I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh, it's not St. Louis, it's in Las Vegas, and that's the address. And I go, okay. So I go, let me reach out. I go, this should be interesting, because I go, Lord, surely you're putting this together. And I sent you an email, and I'm like, hey, Vera, this is Lance. You don't know me.
Right, you did.
But I go, the Lord gave me a dream. I'm supposed to come meet you.
Right.
And I straight up, that's what I emailed you. And sure enough, you actually got back to me.
Yes.
And then we came out, and we met, and it's been like a blessing, because our organizations have worked together.
Yes. It has been a blessing. I think that whenever God is in the mix, there's nothing wrong, right? And so we just keep going along this road and being obedient in it, and it really has enriched my life. The things that you being there for the women and for the fellowship and for Bible study, even when sometimes they can't get to it, but they want to really bad, them knowing that it is available to them, and they don't have to readjust their schedules and things of that nature, is really helpful. It's helpful for the soul, you know? Yeah, I love that story, though. Because I was like, can you share a little bit about this dream? Like, are you coming in on a horse? Like, I need to know.
Yeah, it was funny.
You're like, no.
No, I'll tell you when I see you, because it's going to sound weird. But it's just funny. Like, that's why you got to ask the Lord for interpretations. Because we'll look at that and be like, I'm not going to St. Louis. And it's, you know, he relates stuff so we can grasp it. It's like, ask me. Yes. And it's funny because I didn't fully understand it even when I came to meet you. And then I started seeing it, and you're like, well, I've been praying for help. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because that's what we do. And so we started connecting, and it's interesting. What do you foresee? What would you like the next steps as you're growing? Because you shared a little bit about with me in the past. And what else would you like to do? What's the Lord shown you, which is more important in regards to where you're currently at? Because in a short amount of time, it's a big thing of putting together this program. It's his program. You were just obedient and listened. Then having Divinity House. Where do you see the program going next?
So as a human being, as an individual, right, we think downscale, right? It's like we don't want to ask for too much. But I have been operating in this space of abundance, and I know that there is really no desire too great for my God, period. He gave me this dream of this mock society for a reason, this 100-unit area where women would be able to raise their children and still be able to get the services that they need. My background is real estate, if you can believe that, right? I was a realtor for a few years, something that I hold very dear to my life. So it's no it's no question to me when I look at the design of my life, being in real estate, then engineering, that it's all leading up to this campus, this housing campus, where we don't say no because you are formerly incarcerated, where when you need childcare, we have it there on the premises. So even though I'm like, oh, I need an independent house, I need another house so I can have the women live there independently and then move on to the next level, which would be an apartment, that sort of thing. The vision of this housing campus, and it's named Amanla Village, which means empowerment in Zulu. This vision keeps coming to me. I walked up to a very spiritual friend of mine, and as she was coming towards me, the vision just opened up. Like it just, like I don't know why it was attached to her like that, but this vision just opened up. Like I could see Amanla Village just opening before me. And it was as though God was saying to me, do not forget, right? Because I would have been focused on getting another house and that sort of thing. And that's downscaling him. That's putting God in a box. So I'm looking for land, and I'm looking for some amazing engineers and architects to help me put this together. And I know the city can give me land because I'm a nonprofit. And I know that there are grants out there to build this housing campus. But there's also properties that are already available that are just destitute. And so why reinvent the wheel, right?
Of course.
Why not go in and help someone else out that has maybe a housing campus, and they're just like, I can't stand the expense of this any longer. And that's what we're looking for. I'm not going to put God in a box. I really want to house as many women as possible. Right now our house is full, and that's 6 women, and out of those women, all 6 of them have jobs. All of them are doing really well. And yet they still cannot afford to live on their own. Can you imagine? You're making a living wage and you can't even afford to move out. And every time you get a raise, the
cost of living goes up, And but the blessing side of that is that your family.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, right? Sometimes I go, I feel like I'm just a landlord. And then they're like, no, you're not. And I go, I know I'm the chef because I come cook on Sundays.
It's so funny. What's interesting about the dynamic that you pose is that most places that I've seen, they want this independent facility where there's really not this interaction, or it's very minimal. You've kind of flipped that on its head. And it's like, no, not only does there need to be interaction, but this kind of familial environment is what's going to help these women thrive. Just because a person's getting out of incarceration, you got to, like the Lord says, forgive. You got to forgive it. That's where you understand what forgiveness is. And so to actually have that offering where it's like, no, listen, you're here to grow. We want you to actually move past this. You're not defined by what you did. That's what I find interesting is Satan calls you by your sin, the Lord calls you by your name.
Right. And the best part about it, the reason that I have to be interactive is because they have to see where they can go. Right? I share with them my stories all the time. And they're like, I can't believe, and they try to put me on this pedestal. And I'm like, girl, look, I can get as raunchy and deep as you. You know, I've been there and done that. And I remind them that the journey is still going, that I haven't made it. So then they know that we can walk with grace down this road to our divine purpose, and we may never really reach our divine purpose because life is ever changing. You know, never know what God has in store for you. And I love that though, where I used to be like, I gotta have control, I want to know, you know, what am I having for dinner, you know, just all of that. Now I'm like, let's have chicken, and then I'll turn over and have fish, and I'm okay. The fluidity, the flexibility in my life today, and in being obedient and letting God guide me is really taking away the use for drugs, because I realize now that I will survive. I'll survive whatever comes my way. Like, you made me strong enough to do that.
Now, through your testimony, do you find, and I'm sure this is a blessing because it makes you relatable, which you start understanding, initially it's like, why did I go through this? And then it's like, wait a minute, I had to go through this, not just for my growth, but even more importantly, to be relatable for someone else.
Absolutely.
And that's what a lot of people have trouble with when we go through tribulation in our life. We're like, Lord, why'd you let this happen? And then you see that one person hears it and they go, wait a minute, I'm gonna listen to you because you're real, versus someone that's just preaching at me, but they have no experience.
Yes.
And so some of you going through that, how did it really change the outlook, and how do you think it affects the women that come into your life in regards to relatability with you?
That's a good question, because I believe that I try to put more than just myself in place for them to be able to relate to, so they can see all different aspects, right? Because when I walk in there, I see a reflection of me in each one of them. So I need them to be able to see a reflection in me or the people I'm affiliated with, because that's what keeps me healing. I do, and I can say this. We have a woman that's gotten her GED or diploma. We have a woman that realized that where she thought she was unemployable, she's now had 4 jobs and landed on one that's really good. I have a woman that she cried at every chance that she got, and now she's kind of sucking that up and learning where her power is. And I'd like to think that it's the God in me that they see, and that glow, that shine has become something that they can kind of harness. And they go, you know what, I do feel that good about myself.
Yeah.
I am worthy of all of these things. So being relatable, I used to shy away from telling my story because I didn't want everybody to know. Like, by the way, my felonies are violent felonies. It's not like I just went and stole somebody's checkbook, and it came with a lot of hardship.
Yeah.
Even in the process of committing the crime, I was disappointed in myself. But I did it, and then when I went to go fight the crime, I was like, I did it. So I took the time, which is another fabulous story. I prayed to God not to take more than 2 years from my kids, and I literally went to court the next day. I got 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days.
Wow, look at God.
Right? And it was amazing, and I was facing life.
Yeah.
So, like, God was like, okay, done. Tell me what else is next. What you say, you need sherbet ice cream? I got you.
We
I was
serve,
like, in prison?
Yeah, we serve a living God, and it's amazing when you submit and you go, Father, I got it. And all of a sudden, everything changes, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. And because, again, we serve a living God. And so to see that, I know we got a few minutes left. What is first of all, what's the best way the local community can get involved? For local people?
My goodness, there's so many ways. So if you go to our website, which is trubeginnings.org, we have a volunteer page where you can sign up, you can register, you can find out what we have going on our calendar. You can read through the website and try and figure out like what would be more suitable for you, because we have all kinds of things. We have need for administrative volunteers. We have a clothing closet that needs to be cleaned up. That's the big one. It's like, could you come over and clean up this closet? It's a lot of women's clothes, right? Yeah. The one thing that no one really wants to do is like, can I just help you hand out food to the homeless? We do feeding the underserved once a quarter, and we need help with that all the time for preparation and handout. We're always collecting socks and linen. There's so many, many, many things. The linen, the towels, the socks, and hygiene, feminine hygiene products, they're really hard to come by because they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So we reach out to the public, we reach out to our community, because it's like people like you out there that are watching this that makes all of this even happen. We want to change our world, change the community, change the families within it, and change the women one at a time.
You're a blessing. I want to thank you so much for coming by. Vera Moore, guys. Check out True Beginnings. Check out Divinity House.
Yes. True Beginnings, Divinity House collaboration.
Thank you.
It's just True Beginnings. Wherever you see the sunflower, that's where we reside.
I'm so thankful you came by today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
And guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
We'll be right back. Check out truebeginnings.org and check out Ms. Vera Moore. She's amazing.
Yes. No E in true.
No E. We'll be right back. Stay with us, guys.
I got the feeling all for you.
Vera Moore. Guys, welcome back to Hope and the Truth. I'm still Lance Parvin. What an amazing show today. I want to thank both of our guests. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Shirley's testimony was amazing, and what Vera's doing for this community, I invite you guys to check out Divinity House if you're in the Las Vegas area. If you know someone that can benefit from the services of what they're doing, if you want to get involved and somehow the Lord's been leading you, if you have a testimony to share with the world, there's a reason that's been on your heart, just like Shirley, because it's always going to reach the one who needs it. And if you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can locate us at theculturalarts.org. Feel free to send in a request. We'd love to have you on as a guest on our show. And I'd like to do a special shout out to the newest platform where you can find us, Vegas Life TV. They're amazing, and I just want to say thank you. Guys, until next time, God bless, and we'll see you.